I wouldn't be here without one, and neither would you. Welcome back. Thanks for stopping by. Before we get started, go ahead and click that like button, click that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and share this with all your friends so that we can get two hands and a foot on a roll. Let's get started. Today is Father's Day. Today is Father's Day, and I understand there's a lot of consternation regarding fathers these days. You have your TV tropes where fathers are nothing but goofballs who mess up everything, can't do anything right, and they're always doing the wrong thing, regardless of what their intention is, right, wrong, or indifferent. You have this culture of toxic masculinity being pushed onto young men and boys, saying that being a man isn't good anymore. They're calling it toxic. And so fathers are being told they're not necessary. They're saying anybody can be a father nowadays. But I want to tell you this. Any male can procreate. But it takes a real man to be a father. And so, similar to my podcast from Mother's Day, I'm going to mention and talk about my father today. I know a lot of people don't have the same experience that I have, so I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone for having the experience that I have had. Nor am I saying my father was perfect. Because nobody is perfect. But you give honor to whom honor is due. And in this case, that's my dad. I say so much as this: if anyone wants to talk about me and wants to get an accurate portrayal of who I am, most people say don't talk to family because they're biased. And it's true, my father does love me. But my father is also an honest individual. And throughout my entire life, he has not spared the truth when it comes to me. As far as who I am as a person, who I am as a man, who I have become in all the areas of my life. He has not spared the truth in any of that. And so I always say, if you want to know about me, talk to my dad. He can tell you the truth. And so today I'm going to honor my dad in a manner that hopefully inspires, but also encourages and gives hope. And so I recognize there are a lot of children nowadays that are going about not having a father in their household. And we've all, hopefully, understand the statistics of what can happen with that. We all have also seen the statistics of fathers who aren't good, even when they're in the home. We see the evidence of that happening in this country. But I want to talk about the good fathers. The fathers who love unconditionally, who discipline consistently and fairly, and who train and teach wisely. So, I mentioned a story about my mother and when I was in the hospital. So my senior year of high school, I spent most of it, about half of it actually, in and out of hospitals. And I had, at this point in time, as far as father is concerned, I had already been out of the hospital for a few weeks by then, that year, my senior year of high school. So, my father at the time was in college, finishing a degree, because he had spent a career in the Army, and he's now finishing his degree, and so he's commuting to an hour away from home, southwest of where we lived, and my hospital was 2 hours northeast of where we lived. And so when he would come to the hospital, it's a pretty cool and big deal. And he would trade shifts with my mother and my grandmother. And usually what would happen is there would be a few hours here and there where my father would leave and he'd get on the highway and he'd head to school and essentially pass my mother as she was coming to the hospital. Well, one day, my mother pulled into the hospital and saw my dad's car still there. And as kids, as young kids, and maybe even as older kids, we tend to see our fathers as Superman. At least I know I did. There was nothing my dad couldn't do. There was nothing my dad couldn't fix. There's nothing my dad couldn't do. There's nothing my dad didn't know. My dad was absolutely Superman. Boom. Period. And there's a realization where we come to that we go from the fictional Superman to the practical Superman. We know he's not the guy in the red cape flying across, picking up trains and doing whatever. But he becomes the practical Superman, where there's really nothing that my dad doesn't know about life. There's really nothing that my dad can't do in life. There's really nothing that my dad can't fix, whatever I break. And so there is that component. So I'm in the hospital, and at this point in time, we're getting a full bag of platelets. So your blood has three aspects to it. You have your red cells, your white cells, and your platelets. And I'm in isolation at this point. So I'm in a room, 15 by 10, 15 by 15 maybe, and I can't leave. And there's air filters and everything, and because I have no immune system. And so when it's time for transfusions of blood or blood products, it was very rare that you got a whole unit to yourself. Usually the bone marrow transplant unit that I was in would get a unit or two of blood and would have to split among the few of us who were in isolation. Well, at this day, this evening into morning, I got a full bag, a full unit of platelets. And so, I had a port in my chest, and so they hooked it up to the port, hung the bag on the IV line, and let it run. Well, typically I would usually have a transfusion reaction, a set of chills, some shaking, whatever, and then it would dissipate and go away, and we'd be good to go. Well, then I had a second transfusion reaction, and my temperature, I was getting warm, And my blood pressure dropped to 74/10. And that was the moment I realized my dad wasn't Superman. The look on his face was utter helplessness. Utter helplessness. Not hopelessness, but utter helplessness. There was nothing he could physically do or say, or number of tasks that he could accomplish to fix me. At the time, we didn't know what was going on and what was causing the issue. But I mean, there could have been a number of things, and so my father leaned on the only thing he could lean on at that point in time, and that was his faith. And so, going through that, realizing my dad isn't Superman, but then realizing my dad is better than Superman. I could care less if you could fly, leap tall buildings in single bound, or you're faster than a speeding bullet. Could care less. My dad showed me how to be strong when you're absolutely helpless. That's better than Superman. That's better than Superman. So, what we found out later is that obviously for blood transfusions you have donors. And what happened was then when they went to analyze the bag of platelets, what happened was that when they got the platelets or the blood from the donor, part of the skin of that donor came in with the platelets. Well, and I mean, part of it. I mean, it's a very, very small micro whatever piece of skin. But the thing is that I had no immune system. And so you put something like that up against no immune system, that it fights each other. And so that's what was happening. Was the bacteria that was there, which under any other circumstance wouldn't have harmed anyone, but because I had no immune system, that's why it harmed me. But rather serious. I mean, my blood pressure went from normal to 74/10. If I would have gotten up to go to the bathroom, my blood vessels would have collapsed. And so I say all that to say this, is that I sat there and I watched my father's reaction to me being in that situation. And I learned something more valuable than thinking my father was Superman. A lifelong lesson. Absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. My favorite memory of my dad, preface it by saying this, is that I love the game of baseball. Absolutely love the game of baseball. Played it all the way through college, and had a blast with it. My favorite memory of my father is from me being a child. That's not your typical memory. What people would say their favorite memory was. Is the last few times we had a catch together. Similar to that of in Field of Dreams. The whole, having a catch with his dad scene. The difference being was I was getting to the point where I was getting good at throwing. And I was strong. And you could tell that there was a point at which throwing to my dad was uncomfortable for him. But he endured that a little longer so that so that he could enjoy and I could enjoy having a catch together. So those two stories I tell you because not all dads are Superman. And I don't want my dad to be Superman. I'm glad he's not. He's better than Superman. Because he taught me how to have courage and to rely on my faith in times where it seems not good. And he also taught me a lot about love. Sacrificial love. To go out of my comfort zone because I love someone so much that I just want to spend time with them. So, if you dads out there who are just starting out, put your phone down, spend time with your kids. Teach them the right way, love unconditionally. Teach them to be respectful of others. Teach them that truth is important. That there is objective truth in this world. Not just whatever floats your boat. Not just whatever piques your interest or sounds good. There is objective truth in this world. Fathers, if you're teaching that, you're doing right. For those of you who have middle to older kids, haven't left the house yet, it doesn't matter what their attitude says. Love them anyway. Train them anyway. Teach them anyway. It'll do them some good. It'll do them some real good. And for those of you dads who your kids are like me, out of the house for longer than I was in the house at this point, and you can still have a good relationship with your children. Love them unconditionally. Continue to teach and train. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. I may be a smart individual, but guess what? My dad was 40 at one point in time before I was. And he knows how to be 40 better than I do. And so I say that to say this, is that I can look to my dad for being an example of how I want to be. Not exactly like him, because I'm my own person. but to respond in a like manner as he does, as he has. And still be myself. And so there are things that my dad says in our phone conversations that he doesn't necessarily think is him teaching or him training. But it's just like anything else, is I hear what he has to say and I go, huh, that's pretty cool. I like the way he responds to that, or I like the way he thinks about that, or I've never thought about that way. And so then I take that and I grab onto it. So for you fathers out there who are doing it right, happy Father's Day. May it be a blessed and an awesome day for you, whether it be busy because you like being busy or relaxing because you like being relaxing. However you want to celebrate it the way you want to celebrate it. But thank you for being good fathers. Thank you for being good fathers. So again, happy Father's Day. And with that, I'll catch you on the flip side.